The ocean, a vast and seemingly boundless expanse, is facing a silent invasion. This invasion is not by ships or submarines, but by something far more insidious: microplastics. These tiny particles, invisible to the naked eye, now permeate every corner of our oceans, from the sunlit surface waters to the deepest trenches. They ride on ocean currents, hitchhike on the wind, and lurk in the sand, a constant reminder of humanity's impact on the natural world. This is a story about a hidden threat, one that demands our attention and compels us to act. The ocean, once a symbol of pristine wilderness, is now a plastic soup, a sobering testament to our throwaway culture. This silent invasion has begun to unravel the delicate balance of marine ecosystems, threatening the very lifeblood of our planet. But the story of microplastics is not just one of despair, it is also a call to action. By understanding the problem, its impacts, and the potential solutions, we can begin to chart a course toward a cleaner, healthier future for our oceans and ourselves. Microplastics. The very word evokes images of something small, almost insignificant, yet their size belies their insidious nature. These tiny fragments of plastic, less than 5 millimeters in diameter, are now ubiquitous in our environment. They come in various shapes and sizes, from minuscule beads in cosmetics to larger fragments that break down from plastic bottles, bags, and fishing gear. The journey of microplastics to the ocean is a long and winding one. It begins on land, in our homes, factories, and cities. Every time we wash synthetic clothing, tiny fibers break off and enter the wastewater stream. Discarded plastic products find their way into rivers and streams, eventually reaching the ocean, where they're broken down into smaller and smaller pieces by sunlight, waves, and marine life. Once in the ocean, these microplastics become a pervasive and persistent form of pollution, posing a significant threat to marine life and ecosystems. The impacts of microplastics on marine life are far-reaching and devastating. Marine animals, from tiny zooplankton to giant whales, are ingesting these plastic particles, mistaking them for food. Ingestion of microplastics can lead to a range of problems, including starvation, internal injuries, and suffocation. Imagine a seabird, its stomach filled with colorful plastic fragments, mistaking them for fish eggs, or a whale, its massive body filtering thousands of gallons of water each day, unknowingly consuming vast quantities of microplastics along with its plankton prey. These are not isolated incidents, but grim realities playing out across our oceans. The insidious nature of microplastics lies in their ability to mimic natural food sources, leading to a false sense of satiation and ultimately starvation. The ingestion of microplastics can also block digestive tracts, leading to internal injuries, reduced feeding ability, and even death. Scientists around the world are working tirelessly to understand the full extent of microplastic pollution and its impact on marine ecosystems. They're developing innovative methods to track these tiny particles, studying their distribution patterns, and investigating their effects on marine organisms. One of the challenges in studying microplastics is their size. These tiny particles are often too small to be captured by traditional sampling methods. To overcome this, scientists are using specialized nets with fine mesh sizes to collect water samples. These samples are then analyzed in laboratories where microplastics are identified and counted under microscopes. Researchers are also developing new technologies such as hyperspectral imaging, which can identify different types of plastics based on their unique spectral signatures. These advancements are helping us to paint a clearer picture of the scale and scope of microplastic pollution. Section 5. A grim feast: microplastics in the food chain. The problem of microplastics extends far beyond individual animals. These tiny particles have infiltrated the marine food web, posing a threat to the entire ecosystem. As smaller organisms ingest microplastics, these particles are passed up the food chain, accumulating in higher levels of predators, including fish and shellfish that humans consume. Consider a simple food chain. Microscopic algae consume microplastics. These algae are then eaten by small crustaceans, which are then consumed by fish and eventually by humans. At each stage of this food chain, the concentration of microplastics can increase, a process known as biomagnification. This means that top predators, including humans, may be exposed to higher levels of microplastics than organisms lower down the food chain. Section 6. From sea to land, the microplastic cycle. The journey of microplastics is not a one-way trip from land to sea. These particles can also find their way back to land, transported by wind, waves, and ocean currents. They have been found in remote areas, far from any obvious sources of plastic pollution, highlighting their pervasive nature. Microplastics have been found in salt, beer, honey, and even in the air we breathe. This shows that plastic pollution is not just an ocean problem, it is a global challenge that requires a coordinated global response. We are only beginning to understand the full implications of microplastic pollution for human health. However, the presence of these particles in our food and water raises concerns about their potential to disrupt our endocrine systems, interfere with our reproductive health, and even contribute to the development of certain cancers. Section 7. The shadow of uncertainty, research challenges and findings. While significant strides have been made in microplastic research, many questions remain unanswered. The long-term impacts of microplastic exposure on marine organisms and human health are still being investigated. Scientists are working to determine how different types and sizes of microplastics affect different species and how these particles interact with other pollutants in the environment. Despite these challenges, research has revealed some alarming findings. Studies have shown that microplastics can cause inflammation and damage to the gills and livers of fish. They can also interfere with the reproductive systems of oysters and other shellfish, leading to reduced populations. These findings highlight the urgent need for further research to fully comprehend the consequences of microplastic pollution and to develop effective mitigation strategies. Section 8. A global threat, a collective responsibility. The issue of microplastic pollution transcends national boundaries. It is a global problem that demands a global solution. International cooperation is essential to develop and implement effective policies to reduce plastic production, improve waste management systems, and promote sustainable alternatives to plastic products. Each of us has a role to play in addressing this global challenge. By making conscious choices in our daily lives, we can collectively reduce our plastic footprint. We can choose reusable alternatives to single-use plastics, support companies that are committed to sustainable practices, and advocate for policies that promote a circular economy for plastics. Section 9. Turning the tide. Solutions for a plastic-free future. Addressing the microplastic crisis requires a multifaceted approach that combines individual actions, technological innovations, and systemic changes. We need to stem the flow of plastics into our oceans while also cleaning up the existing pollution. One promising solution is the development of biodegradable and compostable plastics that break down naturally in the environment, reducing the accumulation of plastic waste. Another area of innovation is in advanced recycling technologies that can break down plastics into their chemical building blocks, allowing for the creation of new products without the need for virgin plastic production. Ultimately, the most effective solution lies in transitioning away from our reliance on single-use plastics and embracing a circular economy that prioritizes reuse, recycling, and waste reduction.